Well, as we creep ever closer to the deadline and the cutoff for when we get into the conference championships here inside of the CCL season, we have some more top cut teams going up against one another. This one between the 9th ranked Newberry Esports and the 24th ranked Marshall University. Some people have been calling for Marshall to be put higher up the list on the top 25. Other people are saying they shouldn't be in the top 25 conversation whatsoever. Well, tonight they face against a very tough Newberry Esports roster, and hopefully that will be enough to give some people that are speculating on this Marshall roster a bit more insight to what they are capable of. Amber, on the other hand, this Newberry Esports roster last year was phenomenal. They come back looking to do just the same as they did last year, maybe a bit deeper instead of losing in the round 2 of the championship playoffs.
They're going to be excited to see these next couple weeks really gearing up, and it may be hard for them, right, to not have their eyes set on that conference championship. We were kind of talking before we came into things, right, anything less than a conference championship, or at least competing for one, will feel a little lackluster for this Newberry team. So I know they're focused on the matches the coming weeks and the importance of them, but they're eyeing that conference championship as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of the matches that these teams have played already within their own top cut in their division specifically, we'll look at the head-to-head real quick between both of our rosters here. 10-1 on the season for Newberry Esports. The only series that they have dropped thus far has been to Mars Hill, and that was a 3-2 series that they eventually ended up losing, so they went the distance against them. It was a 4-6 vault. S&D lost at the very end of the series, but S&D hasn't been a strong suit for them this season comparatively to the respawn mode, so something that they can try to improve on here. Marshall on the opposite side, though, Amber, as we can see on paper, do have that upper hand advantage.
And it's something that could look to the series. You talked about Marshall wanting to kind of turn heads, maybe solidify themselves as, here's what we bring to the table. That search and destroy, if they look to extend the series, could be something we look at for a map 5 potential upset if we end up getting there. So definitely something, as far as you said, on paper is concerned, we'll have that circled and potentially be circling back to it.
Hopefully that will be the case. For the Marshall University side here, I will say one thing. Everybody knows Paralysis at this point, and he will be looking to write himself up into the spotlight yet again, wanting to cut down the Newberry Esports. We saw them going back and forth in the team chat before things started popping off here. Good banter between both of the top teams that we have here in this Southeast Appalachian top cut. The two matches that they have lost this season are to Cumberland and to Mars Hill as well. They didn't play Mars Hill as close, though, as Newberry, so that could be something that might be a bit more telling about this Marshall University roster matching up against Newberry, but again, those things are left better up to speculation before, of course, we get into our best of 5 series. Amber, talking about our map set coming up here that we have for our best of 5, we're going to get something a bit more unorthodox that we've seen in a lot of the series on stream here. We'll start with 2 red cards back-to-back and then going into a control on protocol.
I think the red card hard point is going to be interesting because Marshall only sit at a 1-1 as far as the hard point is concerned, and for Newberry Esports, it's going to be one they haven't played yet this year in a regular season matchup. So as far as getting off to a good start for Marshall, they have perhaps the greatest potential in this hard point, but like you said, back-to-back red card for a hard point and search and destroy. Going to be something that, again, for these teams, not usually repped a ton given what else is left in the map pool, so it'll be interesting to see what kind of start we get off to.
One player on Newberry's side that I'm looking forward to seeing here is going to be KB. KB, name that you probably recognize from the collegiate scene for a few years at this point. Most recently, obviously, playing with this Newberry roster, but beforehand did have some matches and some seasons with that St. Clair Saints roster that they actually bowed out to last year. It was them and St. Edwards that they had ended up losing to inside of the the championship playoffs last year inside of the 2024 CCL season. They were 14-1 on that year, which allowed them to propel themselves in a very good position forward. Here they're doing basically the same, 10-1, looking to get back to that 14-1, maybe even 15-1 should they get there at the end of the season. Obviously, we don't have 16 games worth of play for them, but the next few weeks, rather the next 2 weeks, should be very fun to see if they can finish the season on a high note. This is another match, though, for this Newberry roster that could prove to be rather difficult. Marshall University, despite some of the losses that they have and the loss that they had that was close to Mars Hill, this is still a very talented roster led by Paralysis, and when you factor in Alex, you factor in Stuski and Action as well, this is going to be a squad that's going to be tough. I feel Newberry might get caught off guard here in this series if they're not careful.
They could, because I think Marshall's going to come out with all the passion. He talked about the banner and kind of what we saw leading up to this match. And yeah, they're going to come out hot. Marshall can't afford to have a slow start if they want to catch Newberry off guard. That starts in map 1 off the opening break. For them, it has to be all gas, no breaks. And for Newberry, again, they need to be able to weather the storm if they find themselves at some sort of disadvantage in the series.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll be getting into map number 1 underway here, but talking about the red card, let's talk about what we're going to be seeing from both of these two teams. You think KB, you think what he was able to do with the submachine gun last year inside of the CCL. Going forward in this year, the roles, they get a little bit murky here and there, and on a red card, you might favor a third, maybe even a fourth AR, depending on how the map is going for yourselves. So expect maybe a flex role out of KB or some of the other players on this Newberry roster, and the same thing can be said for this Thundering Herd out of West Virginia. Though we have speculated a lot throughout the entirety of our pre-show here, but the one thing that remains true is that Newberry are the favored roster going into this best of 5 series. Marshall on the opposition, they're going to be looking for upset alert. Again, a lot of people think that they might and should be higher up that top 25 list than that number 24 rank is giving them at the moment. Well, we'll just have to wait and see as we jump underway here into map 1. Up the elevator, we'll get on board with Diff.
It's going to look to get active here off of an AR heady, but as we look to switch to the action, going down on P1 and contest early on as we expect, maybe trying to look over ticket. It's going to be KB easily getting active, getting aggressive, and going to be able to find that first pick. Now trying to get intel in and around hedges, ends up falling, but his teammates there on a trade. Time going to sit gray for a moment before Newberry Esports look to jump on it, and as you can see, Marshall just trying to work them out, trying to push forward, maybe flip these spawns out. You'd like to be towards that top left-hand side, even with P2 going in the bottom right-hand corner. Not a lot of time garnered for either of these teams, but with mid-map control, Marshall going to look to collapse.
On the rewrap, you can see Alex starting to make a route around the back inside. Skuski will lay down inside of the ticket booth for a moment. First gunfight in from Cells with the AR. Will make it stick. Headshot gets him the kill. They'll be able to hop into the point. 5 seconds left here. Rotation out to P2 going to be the most important thing to play for here. And Paralysis, already up to 5 kills, is starting to make the cutoff here by the globe. Few players now making their way towards it. K. Beasley on the flank is going to be able to collapse on 1. It's going to be the hill time here, though, for P2 for Marshall.
Paralysis trying to play for the players, looking to anchor towards that top side of the map, but the split spawn comes in, so that's going to be the kills coming in for Newberry Esports. They're going to collect on a couple of these kills, but with the gunfight being lost there in a 1v1, it's going to be Cells, the last man standing, and he is unable to stand the numbers that Marshall brings. So for the moment, the lead perhaps about to change here as Marshall soaking up the time. A little mixy mid-map as everyone's trying to garner some information, but Newberry, they're about to jump in the hill.
Eternals with the SMG tries to slide on in. He's going to be able to find 1. That's 2-2 each way, but it's going to allow Marshall University to stay on top of things with Action's 4th kill. That comes on top of everything else. So now, Spawn's still going to be close here for the Newberry roster. In the back, 20 seconds of time here. Looks to be favoring the number 9th ranked team, and as Diff pops a 2-piece, it's going to be all eyes focused on the opposite side of the map. Spawn going to be flipped out behind here. Newberry might get fortunate.
I do like that Newberry opted to take numbers and rotate, and yeah, they get fortunate. They get the spawns, and now they have an easy 3 rotation. It's just a matter of can they get the setup they would like. It's going to be Paralysis playing spoiler if he can get a route to look to work through, and it looks like he may have slipped a line if Eternals can't catch him. The parking garage spawns do come in, so we'll be attack on a couple of fronts here in Newberry. They need to have their heads turned.
4 or 5 pinch play set up. Cells was able to find 1 out front. Snaps back over towards the right-hand side, but Skuski able to make it stick for the moment. 11 points of separation. It's been very, very open between these two teams throughout the first 3 hard points. And in a hill that is considered one of the more money-esque hills here on a red card. It is still going to be scrappy as ever. 30 seconds left on it. Eternals will pop in for 3 in a row. Stuski on the outside, now trying to force his way in. It's 1 versus 4 around the hard point. Eternals is able to find 1, but it's not all that much for long. 20 seconds left for scrap time for Marshall to claim.
Now they've got to push out this backside spawn where if you're holding iron for Marshall, you should be able to collect a few of these, but KB easily going to connect with the grenade of the car, and so time will sit great once again. Near 90 seconds, Alex already tipped off the clock, and that's going to be something to keep an eye on as this game progresses. Like you said, hotly contested, and neither of these teams looking to overheat early on, really just vying, playing map position here, and Eternals has been the one rotating, has been the one anchoring, looking to do that again and try to make another push here, an inadvertent pinch play coming through, but Action will collect a couple, and that's going to let time go Marshall's way early.
And they're going to realize that this is going to flip the map out as well. So you're going to see those arrows start to turn the opposite way towards the south side of the map. Diff and the rest of the boys now starting to make their way back, and it's Stuski once again by his lonesome over inside of P4. He'll stay underneath for now. Wallbang shots, and 2 players of Unchallenged are going to come in. He'll be able to find 1. Diff up top finds Paralysis. So you're getting the kills around the point, and finally you'll find Stuski in the hill. So the break in from Newberry halfway through the time here, but that was a big 30 seconds for Marshall to grab.
Handshaking the lead. Still 20 seconds to fight for, and you're really not in a great position to get close, and Marshall might try to close distance here, but again, you see them working through P1. They're going to opt to play on this rotation, maybe find these exit kills, chalk up the scrap time. They'll only be down 15 or 20 points at this rate. These next gunfights are going to be critical for them. They're not quite in the cleanest setup here as you have Newberry players surrounding the hill. If they can find these picks, look, try to figure out where these next spawns are coming through. They should be able to get the early time.
Well, Marshall's opted for the early rotation on each of the hard points thus far. They're not going to be able to get the immediate pop time on it. The Diff should be spotted out and will be. So once again, you have the war on 2 fronts coming through. Only one player in cells, though, trying to make the long wrap all the way to the P2 spawn side. The shots continue to ring through. Eternals will find 2 for himself. Now make it 3 as his pop challenge from Action won't be able to be enough. So Estelle pushes on the back end. You still have players corralling from Newberry once again. At about the 30-second mark, they'll make their break in.
Starting to work some time. Again, a lot of these teams opting to hit routes early on, and neither team really pretty good for the moment. Now can they play spoiler and look to capitalize on it? Answer going to be no cells cleans up the flames, so the time being battled from the front side of things. And once again, Newberry, they clean up the kills. They're able to get back into time, and they've really been owning scrap time for these last couple of kills, and that's allowed them to garner a nearly 40-point lead for the moment. So as we go to P1, not quite a rotation per se across the map, like you would think, really just a transition out and towards mid-map. You can see Paralysis looking to play for that, get control of that early on with his team, the rest pushing through ticket side.
Pretty even in the slaying department across both sides. Marshall, though, obvious blemish, 6 and 15 out of Alex Carr. Gonna need to turn that around here in the second half. More exclusively the second set of rotations in order to keep this game from getting out of hand. Newberry inside of P1. I've sat on this for just a moment. Stuski continues to fry out with the AR, cutting off long-range angles, allowing his team to corral around the hard point. You've got one more player out towards the globe side. You need to be careful, though. You have to read that the spawns are going to be flipping out to the opposite side yet again. Stuski will turn around, and Action's there for the hill inside trade. Inside a ticket, Eternals will stay alive, and this will help Newberry continue to be a pester to Marshall.
Continuous gray time, as both of these teams doing a good job clearing hill. Not quite being able to capitalize on it. Marshall hasn't been for the last couple, but again, still making it competitive, still finding ways to at least keep Newberry off the time here for a few seconds. This P2 is going to be critical for them. They need to make sure they can close this deficit here for a moment. Play off good positions, let your ARs get those long lines of sight covered, and have someone for sure is going to be able to do the soak time here as it hill pops.
And really, Newberry, they are quite okay with playing this scrappy game that Marshall has allowed to come to them. If this continues at the stretch that it is, could very well see, not only as you pointed out, that game clock disappearing, but even a 30-point margin being enough for Newberry to walk away with this map 1. Marshall still inside of the hard point, though. They'll win 3 kills on the front. Now they have to turn back around. P2 spawns here for Newberry. They could get trapped up, and this could allow for a nice P3 rotation as well.
This could be a very good sequence for them, the back 30, if they can at least hold it cleanly. And like you said, that rotation could be everything, but a little overextension perhaps through mid-map that could allow for some timing. Usually going to try to work a kill here, and he is going to pick Stuski, so he's going to know where he's at, but his 1v1 mid-map, unfortunately, going to get caught in the bad timing. Alex Carr going to be able to make sure Newberry Esports for the moment stay spawning in the back, and you're also going to hold some of this time from the front. So it was a 40-50 point deficit, now close to about 30, and you have to see through rotation. They just need to make sure they don't let spawns flip out. Now you can see everyone on their retreat.
I did not mind that cruise missile, or excuse me, the Hellstorm being used over the top. You're able to find one that gives you about 15-20 seconds of break in for P2, and with how this game has gone so far, that feels like almost a full 60. 132 to 100. Marshall inside of the hard point now. 30-point game here. As we get close to the end of our second set of rotations, Eternals up the staircase looking for one. Alex Carr going to be the unfortunate victim in this slaughterhouse this time. At 18 and 18, he'll sit inside of the hard point. That lead will continue to extend once again as yet another successful break from Newberry continues.
They're finding these crucial kills to get in at the right times. And for Marshall, whenever they do get the breaks again, they're able to garner time, but it seems like the scoreline is reflecting, right? That Newberry can seem to walk away with more. They win those 1v1s and maybe man disadvantage situations. Alex Carr, though, you called him out. 5-16 not looking great. Really has turned things around here, but it's still not enough for the Marshall break. They just don't quite have the numbers they would like to be able to get back into this hill. So the re-break not going to be garnered. You start to see the lead work up once again, but they've done a great job winning rotations. Can they walk away with a decent chunk of time here as New looks to pop?
Over on P4 with Stuski, who sat in it last time. Paralysis will be the man in the point. That current will look out over towards the goalie side, and on the P2 back-end route, the first one will fall. So now you look for the few other players who are outside the point right now. Diff tries to get a few cheeky wall bangs in, wants to find the player inside of time to at least cut them out. And finally, as they push forward, K. Beasley will be the difference maker. Paralysis knocked out of the point. Another break in here from Newberry. What was about a 20-second lead continues to expand yet again for Newberry as they get another break.
Another route underway. Alex able to connect for another one. Now going to push this line forward, surge it. Try to get control beyond the hard point as your teammates are trying to wrap them back and find these kills off spawn. It's been close for either teams. Spawns for this hill, and as the contest goes down, that game clock continues to dwindle. Newberry going to be in control once again. Rotation going to be underway, but this time Newberry are going to take it where they lost it the last go around. And with this kind of transition and how they've been holding these hills, they could very easily find themselves eclipsing the 200-point mark. Mid-map though, Marshall going to be quick on the attack, and it's going to be a 3 versus 2 here. They have numbers. Can they capitalize?
Oh, they fly out both ways, and Alex Carr in action will pair for the two players around P5. So they'll hop in and get the initial time. You can see the pinch, and really it's Zarkov getting pushed that's coming in from Newberry at the moment. They've got a player on the south side and two on the north. They collapse on one. 3 versus 3 back at the point. Alex Carr inside. Looking with the AR over the top. Gets shots onto the second. Won't be able to connect. Hill sits vacant. Turtles will hop on over. Dolphin dive in action. Tagged up for the last few bullets. And once again, it's another false pinch that's being set up. Marshall need to break.
They got a forward collapse. They won a good one. But unfortunately, the numbers continuing not to go their way as they get picked apart. Always one player left up standing, having to make a heroic play, and they just haven't had that explosive moment as we start to close in towards the end of this game. Through the second half, need someone to make some kind of stand for Marshall to really show that, all right, we can get back into this one. We are definitely not out of it, but we won here the third set of rotations, Alex. They need to turn things around. We said they needed to start hot. Here's where they really need to catch fire.
Newberry feels like they found their footing, though. Could be the difference in map 1. Diff on a flank. Should be able to spot out too. Snap over to the right-hand side. Going to be able to connect. And you have a few more players now making their way around. And Eternals and Diff creating that flank on the Marshall opponents. Creates tons of map space in the middle. Gives them the free P1 time. And now Marshall are going to have to start sprinting back. It's not a matter really anymore of the breaks that you're trying to commit on. It's the battle of attrition if Marshall can hold on.
Test heavy. Like you said, they're going to need a little bit more. You don't want to be in a panic situation where you have to just throw lives away. They still have plenty of time to play it smart, but again, how they've been able to keep time gray, it's boding well for them here. We're going to need to see something stick a little harder than it has been. You see another flank, another wrap occurring, a 1v1 going down, action for time, but again, the trade hedge side is going to come through, is going to be clean. Now you need to find Eternals as he's picking players apart off spawn. He's got his team in a position for rotation. He'll pop 2, and now 1 versus 1 for the early time.
About the largest lead they've been able to have for themselves here for Newberry. And as the Wolves will continue to sit and soak time inside of P2, it's going to be a break back in from Marshall. So again, as you mentioned, game's still not over yet. They have to read that these spawn flanks are coming in, and I believe player 8 might be able to give them the information. I don't know if it's enough of a spawn out for them to really all that matter. Hellstorm in over the top from Diff yet again. Going to find the last player inside of the goalie net. As the last few 2 players from Marshall are trying to hop out the top window. All it is right now is Newberry keeping them at bay.
Cleanup crew, best way to put it here for Newberry. When they look like they're in position to lose out on a substantial amount of time, they find a way to get in for, once again, the back 20 seconds of time. That's how they've maintained this stiff arm throughout the entirety of this red card hardpoint. They have yet to play one in the regular season matchup, but they look comfortable here, just 20 or so seconds away from closing this one out. And sure, Newberry's still fighting for time, but now, Alex, you look to the hike across the map that they have to make. They found the kills, and they need to surge forward, knowing that, again, with a push, they could flip out spawns. They have numbers if they want it. They just need to fly.
Contests aren't going to be enough, though. You're playing against the game clock, and you're also playing against Cells, who's playing the cross from the P5 cut. Diff is there, too. 3 players from Marshall go down. 234 to 176. 16 on the game clock. Action will fly himself in, but the spawns are still close here from Marshall. It's not quite over yet. It's a desperate push back, but inside of the hardpoint still are Newberry. 3 kills found around the hardpoint. 2 players now coming off spawn as Marshall are just trying a desperate sprint back over towards the hill. It's still Newberry inside. The Wolves gnarling with their teeth. Snooski flying forward. Cells knocked down from behind. Marshall back in.
Marshall win the kills, but at this point, like you said, the game clock also going to be a factor. Not only do they have to hold the rest of this time, they have to make the rotation as well. You have Newberry spawning where you would like. You need to find these next kills if they're going to be everything.
With 14 seconds in middle map, though, and 14 left on the hill, it just might simply not be enough. Back inside, Newberry will stall the clock out. 246, slide challenge inside. Diff tries to challenge Stuckey on the staircase, and he makes it stick. 250 to 195. A 55-point victory in map 1 for the Wolves. That's a great start there from the number 9 ranked team.
Fantastic way to close things out. The Thundering Herd not quite enough prowess to get things back in a position where they could overtake the lead and close it out. Unfortunate where you get in that panic mode where you have to win every single gunfight and also maintain hill time. The game clock, a major factor in the urgency they had to play with, and with P4 being as challenging, or excuse me, P3 being as challenging of a hill as it is to hold with so many different entry points. Just not enough to be able to stop this Newberry team from closing it out, and fantastic job to kick things off with a 1-0 on a map you haven't played just yet. Marshall University not feeling too bad after it, but definitely having moments where they could have walked away with it. And you think the Diff and those L-Storms he was able to accrue and the impact he was able to make with those. Pretty steady, pretty consistent line all the way to 250 for Newberry.
Yeah, never really crossed to a Marshall lead except for the early exchanges inside of map 1. I think at the end there, when we saw that scorecard, really the slaying story kind of tells it all. Obviously, Alex Carr didn't have a great early start in the early goings of the game, kind of found his footing mid-map, slowed down again towards the end, and the rest of Marshall did as well. There really wasn't, besides, I mean, maybe you look to Stuski, who was having a good game for Marshall, but everybody else, you know, who was pretty much keeping up with Newberry through the first 4 or 5 hard points and slaying, they started to decline towards the end, and that's what allowed that rift to open back up and keep that gap between the two teams. So for Newberry, I mean, that's pretty much everything that you wanted and more out of a map 1. You've been great in your respawns all year, specifically in the hard points. Don't see any reason why that turns around now. You beat Mars Hill in the best of 5 series that you played against them earlier in the year. That was your only 1 loss on the season. Now we go into the S&Ds, Amber, where things have not looked as good for Newberry. These are the 2 maps that they faltered against the side of Mars Hill within that best of 5 series. And for Marshall, on the other hand, they have been a pretty decent S&D team all year long. They played it a few more times than the Newberry roster, but this is kind of their bread and butter. Going back to another red card, look for Stuski with that AR to continue being a first blood machine.
They need to just refocus up, simply put, lock back in for the search and destroy. Like you said, they know they have the edge going into this, and for Newberry, they have a good start to this series that they continue to ride into map 2. We called out just about every player for that squad at different moments, making big plays as individuals. And again, they were able to play as a team around those big plays. For Marshall, we didn't quite have anyone. We keep calling to Skuski, right, and what he was able to do. Needs to be a couple more players willing to elevate themselves, willing to step up. And in this search and destroy, those big plays are going to be oh so impactful. Working on not getting picked to the best of their ability and playing around their trades. No one doubting their ability to take the series and tie things up 1-1, but again, they've got to slow down this front the Newberry have brought.
Newberry gets some good practice with the red card hardpoint. First time they've played it, they're going to take a 1-0 advantage on that going towards the rest of the season. Hopefully they can find success on it should they need to play it later on. Going into the red card S&D though, things turn around just a bit, but it feels relatively the same as map 1. 3 times have this Marshall University roster played on red card S&D. 2 times they've won it, 1 time they've lost it. Newberry on the opposite end, they've played it once, they've won it once. So both teams seem at least decently proficient at red card S&D. It's a very small sample size, at least for Newberry, but regardless, you know, you're going to feel well practiced on a map like red card, especially after that first hard point, but things when you slow them down in S&D can get a bit more, I don't want to say cruddy, but I'm going to call it cruddy, because there's just so many places that you can play on the map. Yes, you need to be concise in the hits that you're making, but some of those head glitches that you have to sit on outside of P1 on the globe are going to be tough to combat, and then you have a few places on the map where you can just kind of lay in wait. We've seen Pred do that in the CDL countless times for that Optic Gaming roster. No reason why you don't see that same kind of aspect come into a search and destroy here in the CCL, and for Newberry and for Marshall at the same time. I think both are going to be keen to those different plays, but I think the difference maker, obviously besides the first bloods in the contest, that's going to be won either by the hedges or over by that B hit, is of course going to come down to who can get the better of timing through middle map.
And that's going to be interesting because you had brought up the point of players playing it slow, maybe laying in corners and waiting for a player to cross their line of sight. We saw in the first half of that hard point, both teams taking routes, trying to make pinches work out for their squads, and Search and Destroy is going to be no different. This is a map different from, you think to your Skylines where you don't have a lot of room to work around the map and make big plays like that. And with either of these teams showing on red card, they're not scared to take those chances and maybe buy a little time to make a route. I think for these squads, it's like you said, the better of that timing. I expect routes coming in from any of these 8 players, and comes down to those timings. But as we dive into this map number 2, Alex, I do not expect it to slow down too much. If there is a map that it would be red card, but the way Newberry's feeling, the way all 4 players were clicking, and relatively even on the scorecard, I expect them to continue to flow off of one another.
Setting ourselves up for a fun search and destroy here on red card. Marshall looking to tie the series up at 1 apiece. I think this is a very doable situation for them. However, they did play the Cumberland Phoenix roster. Another high-rated team lost this map 3-6 against them. We'll see which team has the best of one another. Diff over the middle of the map. We'll start with a nice nade. Well timed, won't connect with anything. But early utility on the defensive side is going to allow Newberry to force their way over towards B. Could be bully ball here in a moment. Action will lay down, waiting for a push in. Eternals is there. Should find a trade and absolutely will into paralysis. So the first blood comes through. Tag team onto the second. Hop up, and Eternals keep itself alive.
Diff just overlooking with AR. Trying to support his teammates, but once you get in that bomb side, it gets very tricky. Now the group up going to come in. Perhaps a rotation, and that looks like it's going to be the case. Marshall, of course, you have to respect that they can still be here. So I expect to slow down to work back towards this A site, but they do at least have the distance to close, much shorter than that of Newberry, but they're wasting no time here. And Now with things going quiet, Marshall know that this wrap could be underway and they're trying to work through mid-map diff, could find fantastic timing here.
Basically just keeping in stride with them on the outside of the map. You can see one through the window, tries to run away, and with 9 HP, he's going to have to slide down the back staircase. This is a wonderful time waster, because now both of these players from Marshall are completely focused on the P3 side of the map, and they're going to have to force their way all the way back over to P2 and try to find the 1v1 against Eternals on the opposite side. Diff finally will get caught off. With 23 seconds left, not only do you have to find Eternals is just going to play the cruddiest corner in the world. Oh my lord. Hops down a middle map, realizes both of them are going to have to force the map on the opposite end, and this is a wonderful rewrap. But on the bomb right now, it's halfway through. They're going to look for the long-range shots. They're going to be able to connect the second one. The snap challenge, 7 seconds left. It won't matter. You've won the round. Stuski wins the gunfight, but it's the consolation at its best as Newberry take round 1.
I was interested to see how he looked to play that with the sub and trusting in the long-range shots with the Jackal as most any confident sub would. Your AR, unfortunately, just not aware, right? They lost where he was on the map, and essentially you pick a 50-50 angle, and for Marshall, you end up losing it. Great job out of Newberry to play their 2v2, and like you said, buy enough time on the backside of things just to bleed the clock. A good offensive round out of him.
Really no correct answer there. Marshall had to chase regardless, but here on the offense, you see Stuski get up to the top. You can see 3 players from Newberry stacking over towards B. The first one up for the challenge was Paralysis, so gets bested in the first blood call, and this time 4-2 off the rip. Really not much you can do here as the stagnated push from the offense is hit.
They got aggressive to about the 50-yard line and slowed things down, and as you would, you've already found the first 2 kills. Now you can just lie and wait, but you can see Newberry looking to get a little more aggressive for some information. Eternals feeling good at 4-1. Trying to see where this push is coming from. Trying to get eyes on an AR, but now if he's looking to pinch here, could find fantastic timing. Once again, is able to snap for the second. Beautiful work. Beautiful play off the information they have. A quick 2-0.
Don't mind that one bit. Basically forced them back into one section of the map. You had players on the outside looking over the A site. B site was nowhere to be seen, so cheeky little rewrap. You allow yourself to find 2. That's a quick 2 rounds for Newberry. Back on the offense. Let's see what they choose to do here. See where they want to go. Favoring the A site. Stuski will lay in wait, though. He smells something fishy. Paralysis is on the opposite side of the map, so this is kind of a diversion play from Newberry here. They're trying to get people over towards B. They want Marshall to wrap off of A, but Alex Carr, now that he has the information that somebody's upglowed, this should give the information from the Marshall roster that, hey, they're going to try and break this on A.
Hold your irons. Alex Carr has to win one of these gunfights and does that. Will be bomb carrier down, but KBZ lying in wait, can't collect the kill, tries to connect with the nade. Alex Carr close to running into it, but going to wisely back down. His team's still not rotating. Someone could be here. You trust that the bomb shell's going to collapse. The trade comes in. That should be the call to make this wrap towards the A site. As it's an inadvertent 1v1 in different portions. Bomb goes down once again. It's up to KBZ to make the play.
Oh, and you know, Self is pissed. Off of Paralysis, just laying behind the desk there. He's like, okay, well, hey, I got the one contestant player that was trying to play the B site still. I'm coming back to y'all boys today. And then Nico just pops up and says, hey, I'm still here. Give him a whiskey sour to walk away with. Finds the last player on the rewrap too. That's a good round for Marshall. They didn't fall for the diversion. They kind of just played it almost like, I don't want to call it a Valorant round, but you know, it's one of those things where somebody just anchors the site and you just, you know, play there, wait for somebody to make noise on the opposite side. You find the first blood and then everything just kind of pops off after.
Didn't take the bait. Why would you? Your teammates are winning the gunfights where the bomb was on the A site, so everyone was just able to hold their lanes, walk away with the round as a result, and even spread across the map a little 1-2-1. As still Newberry leaning towards this B site bomb, not having made a move yet, but Eternal's getting aggressive. Once again, it is going to be Action who finds the kill, so now the call is going to be in. All right, we have some map to work with. They don't know that A lane is open, but it is forcing players for Newberry to shimmy and look to move around. Still laying in spawn, or excuse me, waiting in spawn to make a push, seeing if Newberry will get over aggressive and try to find another pick before they make a decision. Less than a minute remaining. Comms are coming through. They're going to make a move towards B.
I think Eternals might need to bump his FOB settings up by a bit. Not sure how he didn't spot out Action who was laying down in the corner. But you're not going to be too upset because Beasley pops off for 2. Stewie, action, both going to fall. Paralysis gets a trade onto Beasley Shore, but it's a 2 versus 2 now. Cells, horrible timing, but Paralysis doesn't spot him out. Tries to challenge back on over. Camera glitch goes the way of Marshall for a moment. And now in the 1v1, Diff slides out the doorway with AR in hand and will give the shots to the back of the man named Nico. 3-1 Newberry.
Good round of response, and these have been rather quick rounds at either of these sites. Towards A, it's been slow. Towards B, as you would expect. Lightning fast kills. So many timings and angles to check, and you try to get out with your life there quickly, but player lying in wait, able to collect. So 3-1 advantage. As we start to get towards the halfway mark of the search and destroy, Newberry very much in the driver's seat. Marshall trying to weather the storm. They need a big defensive answer.
Set and 8 should come into playoff rip here from Marshall on the defensive side. They're going to get very quick information that Newberry is looking to push their way forward. First challenge is going to be to Cade Beasley, as Alex Carr thought he had the timing. The pop-up wasn't enough because he had a player jumping up over the top of him, so help from Newberry allows him to find 2 quick kills once again in the early rounds of the search and destroy.
And that was just devastating because it completely blows up whatever Marshall wanted to do, whatever hold they wanted to make. When it comes down to bully ball, Newberry Esports winning in that department. They have bombed down a vicious setup, but you don't even need the rest of your players to look to collect for these kills. It was going to be near impossible for them to find all 4 players with the lanes they were holding. Much as Marshall, and as quickly as they got one on the board, to rip off 2 more, for Newberry to take a 4-1 advantage.
That's the second time that Eternals has been able to do that on this Marshall roster. Catching a couple players off guard. And I think Paralysis knew that he was around the corner, but he didn't want to take the challenge out the doorway just yet. I mean, with Newberry having their entire setup hold over middle map, really the only option is for them to flank around through the P2 spawn side. But instead of another round win there for Marshall, a quick 2 first bloods that came through from Newberry Esports allows them to take a 4-1 advantage here on the search and destroy. Back to the offense for Marshall. Directly through the slaughterhouse. Action will shoot the door open, gets some good shots onto Eternals. Beasley was the second one there. Alex Carr, unfortunately, will be the first one to fall for Marshall, but you still have numbers in a 3v2.
Bomb needing to be retrieved. Rather staggered play. Everyone split up for Marshall, trying to see if, again, those ARs can work a pick. Stewski working up the map as well. Lone one at this A site. They're trusting that he can maybe work through the backside, but once again, playing oh so deep. Does the timing go your way? The AR in hand, the slide, the shimmy around. And now you have another player looking to try to work to that position. A 1 versus 1 here, but mid-map you're able to collect another one. So a 2 versus 2, rotating towards the A site. 1 player left standing. Stewski not able to connect, but shaky shots to start. Able to close it out. Marshall University staying alive.
That's just a tough gunfight to win. I mean, if Cells would have been able to connect before he was able to escape with his life, sure. But I mean, not only are you shooting basically through a very large and obscene pole, but you're trying to hit those little wallbang shots, and also through the windows that also count as obstructed view. So technically, you're hitting him for even less damage, and you don't get aim assist on it either. So that's even more fun. But regardless, it was a 1v3. You would have had to pull a miracle out of you know where. He wanted the chance at the round. As things have stagnated for Marshall, they get that round back in their favor, so maybe some footing back under their feet for sure. As I say that, Cells, of course, walks away with the 1v. Action, who was on 4 in a row, was able to find 2 early kills, and the last round falls first. So with 2 players remaining here from Marshall on the B, trajectory in sight for the bomb, it looks like they may wrap this back to A.
Devastation with the ARs finding those first picks for Newberry's and the subs behind that, pushing the pace, and it has worked out for them just about every time, as they're going to get the bomb down on A for free. You're just pinned so deep in your spawn, having to make a rotation, and another player diff lying in wait with the cleanup kill as the AR shots connect from stage side. Simply put, Marshall University have not been able to get much map real estate. They haven't been able to take up space the way Newberry has, and that's just because of those first bloods and the submachine gun players with the ability to kind of get loose and fly forward behind it. Thundering Herd with no real answer.
It just goes back to what we were talking about beforehand. Once you get even just a little bit of map space, like you were talking about, like, then you can just set up in those credit corners. Like you see Diff there, just sitting there. Nobody's going to expect them to be sitting in the left side when they're hitting out their middle there. They're expecting them to be set up on the A site because the rewrap that they have with the bomb back over towards it. And every time that Marshall feel like they have something good going for them, Newberry just rung off to like another 2 rounds. and then it just feels impossible again. RCXD is going to be called in. You have some early information potentially being garnered for this Newberry roster. Easily going to look back over towards the right side, and another first blood goes the Newberry way. The Wolves are hounding.
Submachine gun presence felt. And once again, the space, the confidence they're playing with here, Eternals, with the submachine gun, having himself a map and continuing to try to snuff out one of these kills as he's pushing this line forward. Even if he falls, right, you trust your numbers, you trust how the ARs have been playing, so he's really playing for information, and if he gets a kill, great. But you know that Marshall are not pushed up the map.
Good drop down there, though, from Alex Carr. You walk away with the gunfight win. That gives you a lot more room to work with in the round. You resurface yourself, but you only have 30 seconds to play with. Beasley laying in wait for anybody that wants to cross their way towards this A-bomb site. You still have 2 players trying to play over towards B, and 1 contestant player of Diff playing the top big window. Eternals, first one up to challenge. Unfortunately, not able to find it there. Alex Carr will get that bomb down. And as Diff looks for action, a well-placed nade could snuff this out. 32 HP to live with.
AR and a sub, so gonna pull that out while he sits the site. You just have to wait for action to try to find one of these kills. Diff could find the timing here. Looking down Eskies, and that'll be the case. Gets the information.
Oh.
Good trigger discipline there. Should be able to find better at this timing, but the clock's still dwindling.
It's happened every round. And now Alex Carr, the bomb plants are stuck between a rock and a hard place. In this case, it's Diff and Cells on opposite sides of the map looking to tag team him as they fly around towards him. Might be able to get the best timing on Diff, but Diff hops back up. Knocks him off the board. And in a map where Marshall University felt like they might be able to restructure how this series would go after the disappointing red card hardpoint in map 1, they will falter 2-6. And the number 9 ranked team will continue to hold strong in the series, now on series point going into the control.
Such a tough position to be in. Had the right idea. Had the right angle to catch the timing. Win that gunfight. Perhaps it comes down to the clock. You might have bought yourself just enough time, but again, you don't win that gunfight. And that round walks away from you. The map walks away from you as well. 6-2. A near flawlessly played search and destroy out of Newberry. I mean, they faltered those 2 rounds, but that was more so Marshall playing well, right? It wasn't anything where self-inflicted wounds or, something went wrong for them. It was just well executed out of Marshall University. But they were very comfortably in the driver's seat as well, looking good on red card where they haven't repped it a ton in hardpoint and search and destroy. Something they're definitely confident in. A lot of those rounds coming down to kills. And as far as it's concerned, you do win a lot of those first bloods. You get a fair amount of them on the board if you are Marshall. But again, those ARs over the top, consecutive rounds, you think to 3 in a row towards that B site, whether it was offensively or defensively, Cells, Diff, finding ways to get those first picks, and it just completely stagnated the push Marshall wanted to make.
Suffocating feeling for Marshall, respecting the challenge at a Newberry Esports across the map. Newberry had game plans that they wanted to commit to, and they made them oh so sexy. Especially on those B hits that they had early on, the diversion plays that Marshall not necessarily fell for, but just moments where you could have been fighting 4v3s and instead you were the ones fighting the 3v4s, having to get that trade back to a 3v3 situation. That gave Newberry all the information in the world on a lot of those offensive rounds. And I mean, the hardest thing here is, I mean, you see 3 of those rounds where Marshall get that first blood, Newberry were able to converge a round win off of them. And going into a protocol control where you can so quickly have the map flip on you, especially on that offense, just get spawn trapped by that sweltering defensive hold through P3, things very quickly can favor the SMGs that are going to get up close inside of you, and that's what Newberry is oh so good at. I mean, this entire series feels like not only has it been dominated by the SMGs up close, but those ARs that are also, again, suffocating for that Marshall University roster. They just can't combat it right now. This is a series that feels, I don't want to say impossible to win for Marshall, but bar something incredible happening here on this protocol control, and then they're able to just figure out the vault hardpoint. I think the number 9 roster is, at least right now, has the series in the bag.
They definitely feel like they do. And, to piggyback off the point you were making, it's just, it's even across the board for Newberry, everyone making sure that they're pulling their weight. And for Marshall, there hasn't been a crazy standout player who's just backpacking the whole series. It's just, they've fallen flat. Action, the submachine gun, just not able to have the presence enough to counter Beasley and the other submachine gun for Newberry Esports, the ARs,
Yep.
again, losing majority of those fights. We saw, the slang kind of look in favor of Newberry after map number 1. The same thing here in map number 2. And like you said, protocol not very friendly. You're going to be working not only against how quickly this Newberry team is playing, but on a map that favors that mid-map presence and then them continuing to push that line forward. So it doesn't get any easier. The number 9 team showing why, they are a top 10 team here in the CCL, and maybe showing, that Marshall, okay, they wanted this as a benchmark against some of these top teams. It has not been an easy route for them, and they have one map left to make a stand.
They do. Well, folks, while we go to a break, I do want to remind you one quick time, and you already know what's coming. Make sure you head to scuff.co/collegecod and dominate the competition with a brand new Valor Pro controller. Scuff, the exclusive controller partner of College COD. We want to see your scuffs. If you got a scuff at home, share it with us on Twitter, or on X, excuse me. I keep saying the name. I don't think I'm ever going to not say Twitter, but go ahead and share it with us on social. Send us your Scuff gaming controller. See what we got. Might sauce a like or two on some of those posts. That being said, on the other side of a break, we will have a protocol control where Newberry Esports looks to close out this thundering herd roster of Marshall University. Welcome back from the break. Newberry Esports up 2-0 over the Marshall University Thundering Herd. Inside of this series so far, we've seen 2 red cards, 1 in a hardpoint, 1 in a search and destroy. Neither have been too notable and things to talk about, other than the fact that Newberry did look like the better team. The S&D was a little more far-fetched than I think the red card hardpoint was, with a 250 and 195 scoreline. It looks a little bit close, but when we saw kind of the end results and how that map played out throughout the entirety of the 3 rotations that we saw, it really did feel like Newberry always had that upper hand advantage. They never let that lead really get closer than about 30-35 points. So going into this protocol control, another respawn where Newberry, as we looked at the stats earlier on in the night, did have the better record overall in the respawns. Has an opportunity for Marshall to maybe get into a rhythm here, restructure the series, start a reverse sweep, although Cash, you and I, as we talked about, maybe don't think that that's too much in the realm of possibilities with how Newberry been playing.
It would have to be a real kind of 180 flip for them. I mean, again, just to kind of give you what we know on paper, and as we got to see, they are 2-0 on protocol control, 4-1 on the other side of things for Newberry Esports. Of course, who comes to play on a given night? It has been all red, all Newberry, at least through the first couple of maps. And kind of talking about the intangibles or things that don't show up on the scoreboard, Alex, what does it feel like in a sense where you drop a map in a more devastating fashion that you were favored by just about everyone to take? What do the vibes feel like going into map 3, knowing that, okay, we kind of got it handed to us and what we felt like we could have won? What's that kind of mentality look like going into a control?
I guess we just talk about both teams and kind of the vibe check. For Newberry, yeah, intangibles wise, you've just been playing really well, teamwork, all coordinated. Every hit that you had inside of the hard point, it was clean, concise breaks every time. You didn't get anywhere past 30 seconds before a break had come through for Newberry on each and every single one of the hard points that Marshall had rotated to early in map 1, and I think that shows a clear and concise way of how they're able to not only communicate with one another, but run the map well together. For Marshall on the opposite end, one, it's a combination of the opposite of that, but two, I think it just comes down to a little bit more trust. It was like what we saw last night in some of the matches that we were playing out, just watching angles that your teammates are watching, seeing some of the other things being picked up. It needs to be a little bit better here for Marshall, and already they've gotten themselves 2 off. They feel like they know what they want to do here. They've got players all on the B site, and they're holding it from bottom grandmas, playing it around the north side of the map. This is a really well thought out hit from Marshall.
And this is where they faltered at moments, again, picking what you want to watch, what you need to watch, and winning the gunfights behind that. You're losing a couple here for the moment, but with 2 players on the site, you have numbers. Cell's going to bully out from top trips. Now going to try to get an angle, but that first tick of progress ends, so they're comfortable stepping off time for the moment. Looking to get picked, but they've done a decent bit of hard work. You also find the pick on the player in the power position, so the transition over to A, underway, stop the clock once again. You said thoughtful off the opening break. Now it seems like they're working together here to try to get more progress.
They've got a good timing, though, through the back end. I was going to say, you found the player top trips, and that should give you the notice that, hey, nobody's in the spawn, but unfortunately, we're having to fight it through the back at the moment. And now that Cells is back there, Eternals will go ahead and join him. Alex Carr is going to look over to the left, gets the weakened player tagged up and off. That should clear everybody out. So it's going to be a 4v2 back through the middle of the map. Not a ton of positioning taken up right now by Marshall, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad problem, especially since the spawn's clear.
Essentially, they don't know it, but they have to bully out this top side of the map. Why? Because you're going to continue spawning in that top left corner. Once Newberry, if they start finding these kills, you have Cells playing Heli in a position, but now being out of the play, A few members on this B side, they could quickly capture it here, and I think Newberry might even just chalk it at this point, having to take gunfights off spawn. That third tick coming in oh so quickly. Alex Carr picking up the kill mid. This should be the B side.
Very much enjoy that play through middle map. This is going to be here with his teammate, and they're just going to flood it right at the last second. This will allow Marshall to get on the A zone. So as they start to make progress here, they've got one player in Eternals trying to fly in through the sidewalk of the barrel side of Grandma's. They'll cut him down quickly, and Alex Carr was able to escape into the bottom side of Grandma's in the safe harbor. We'll get back on B. So halfway through the last tick of progress, Diff will still be here trying to jump into the point. Alex spots him out, but it's Diff with the good shots and the drop down on 4 in a row. Survives with half health. 30 seconds left as they get him off A.
And that's where things get tricky, is that you have some progress to show for it, but the clock not favoring you. You have 3 ticks in, no site secured, so you're working against the clock. Another pressure situation, and this is where things can start to crumble and fall apart. They've taken care of the threat in their spawn. Now they have to take mid-map control. They have 10 seconds to make a decision, but they do stop the clock for a moment.
Big dog Skuski out through middle. Picks up the stub instead of the AR inside of Protocol here on the control. 8 out. 10 seconds. Clock stalled. Oh, worst timing in the world. He gets turned back around by Beasley, though, to the point. It's still players on A here for Marshall.
With the play having to work out on A and it working out, you've done the hard work towards the B site. Now you just need to play clean, play together. 9v8 in live. Excuse me, 8v8. This next big gunfight's going to be everything. You just need 1 tick. You don't need to overheat here. Work a couple picks, work up the map as a team. You could walk away with the round win here. 6v6, 50 seconds remaining. And Icy Newberry getting back to what they're used to, lying in wait, finding the right time to pounce.
Here they come. Gunfight. Eternals will find Paralysis. Had the pistol out for the gunfight. 5v5 up top. Marshall gives the advantage. No respawns remaining for Newberry. Backline spawn. Action tried to get aggressive, but K. Beasley will fall. First one out of the 4 here for Newberry. Basically playing S&D here for the last 25 seconds. 1 tick of progress to play for on the B zone. Stuski and bottom Grandma's. Pushed very deep into the back lines here of this Newberry defensive hold. And as the stronghold looks to potentially collapse here, good shots in the back end from behind. 11 seconds left. They need to orchestrate their way onto this B zone here. They're trying so hard to find these last few players, but here it goes. They're on the zone. Pinch coming in now, pushing their way forward as Paralysis. Nico finds one, looks back up to the top of middle map. He's in a 1 versus 3, almost is able to find the last one. But he gets collapsed on the zone. Teammates fall around him. Marshall almost win the offense, but they get 5 ticks to suffice.
And I think back to one of the last pushes Marshall were able to make. Newberry have done such a good job taking care of home base, where Thunder and Herd have wanted to get behind enemy lines, find some of those kills. I mean, you cannot sing the praise of these ARs enough. Cells, Diff, making sure the back line is taken care of, because you find 1, maybe 2 of those players, that round's over far more quickly and with minimal congestion. But because they're doing so well at making sure nothing goes unchecked, they're able to walk away with a round there in those clutch moments.
Looks like the server may have crashed there for us, so we are back to us. Hi, how you doing? Good to have you with us here on this Tuesday night for College COD Action. It's about almost 10 o'clock here on the Eastern Coast, so if you're watching us from anywhere inside of the United States or around the world, we appreciate you for joining us and lending us an ear for some matches here on a Tuesday. I guess one of the things that we can go wide view here, if you are joining us here and you're wondering when the conference championships are going to be starting, we have the end of this week and then next week, and after play ends next week, then we will start the conference championships. So we're right around the corner, not only for March Madness, but here inside of the CCL. Pretty much the same thing, but probably a copyrighted name, so I won't use it for what we're going to have going on.
Essentially, the idea is completely got, and also the competition going to be just as fierce here, especially in this series specifically as we zoom back in. It's been a fierce battle back and forth, though the series score doesn't show it. Marshall giving their best effort at the number 9 Newberry Esports squad. Round 1 of the control doesn't go their way. It came down to the wire in just moments where, again, they're in positions where they have to make big plays, whether it come down to the clock, whether it come down to lives. They're on the worst end of those situations and just unable to capitalize, unable to make the big plays where Newberry have been able to clutch up, and that's kind of been the pain point for them this entire series. So a round that they regrettably wish they could have taken, not able to, but on the defensive side of things, they're hoping to make a good stand. I mean, they got 5 ticks of progress, right? So that is going to be something they can kind of have their heads held high about going into the next round. They played well off each other. Like you said, it was thoughtful, it was coordinated pushes. So I don't really have a doubt per se, based on how they played in round number 1, that they're able to do that. But Newberry, they're going to come out swinging, going to come out fast like they've played the entirety of it. So it won't be an easy round for them to try to answer back with, but they really need to take care of business in round number 2.
Well, hopefully that business will be picked up here in a moment. Not exactly sure when we will be getting back into that lobby. And I believe I just got word from Mr. Sports CTC that we are going back in here now. So we're not going to kick into a break. We will continue to talk you through this little intermission period we have in our control. But Andrew, was there anything that you saw from that first Marshall assault that you really liked more so than you've seen so far this series?
I just like that, in the search and story, you saw they played split at times, didn't really play with numbers. I think at this point, they've kind of just chalked up saying, okay, we haven't been able to make individual plays. Let's just go as a team and maybe dish back some bully ball, right? Find a way to use our numbers to our advantage. And that's what I liked off the opening break. They just went as a team, were able to get good progress towards the B site. We'll see if they continue to play that way on the defensive side of things here, as it worked out for them in the first round, but didn't result in a round win. It is aggressive. Once again, the submachine guns trying to get loose for Newberry, trying to find these timings, and they have found them oh so well. Action, lying in wait, able to find one. Might know that the second's close, connects. Now that's going to give them the freedom to roam around towards this AC.
Trying to clear things off on A. Suzuki looking to the opposite end. Has the AR. Finds Eternals out on the sidewalk. Wrap back around through the middle side gun. Call out was good, but unfortunately wasn't able to get the shots. Cells and Diff pair together to get back on the A zone. So here on offense, they had a player over on the B site. We'll hop off for a moment. That's going to be K. Beasley starting to make his way through bottom grandmas. They want to disrupt this defensive hold. They know that Alex Carr is up behind them inside of their spawn. And top trips window, he challenges out with 2 HP, wraps back around, spots one out. So there's still a few players here. The second tick of progress is almost in. Here comes the Marshall collapse.
Trying to push the mid-map, able to clean up a couple. So for the moment, A is going to sit vacant, and they're going to look to clear that tick of progress. They've been really clean, really secure towards the B side, not giving anything up. So about 45 seconds remaining in the round. Not quite a spawn trap in play, but you can see Newberry scratching their heads, trying to figure out where they want to make their next move, lying in wait. How many times have we seen that? Beasley almost with the World Star. But everyone in a fantastic position for Marshall, looking to bleed this clock, looking to not let these players get aggressive, pushed up the map. It is continuous shutdown from Paralysis towards this B site. Newberry left scratching their heads.
Action there. One down low on Beasley. His defense has been stout here from Marshall. As Dip looks over the top with the AR in hand. They rip Alex Carr off the heady. 13 seconds left here in the round. They find him off a spawn. Almost a turnaround for Cells, but it shouldn't matter. Paralysis now on 5 in a row. Would love to see him play his life here. Try to get some utility for a Hellstorm. They'll find another one on the A zone. Clock will stall out with 5 seconds left. And you still have players here from the side of Marshall trying to push their way forward. Cells finds another. Paralysis will connect. That's the Hellstorm. Turns around on the pillar. Such a hard gunfight to win if you are Eternals. But as Beasley finds another, they've got the second tick of progress at A. What seemed like a round that was going to be lost here by the side of Newberry could have found new life here. 60 seconds added to the clock, 105 to work with.
5-5 disadvantage is perhaps the only thing they have to be weary of to this point. Marshall in a good position. They, again, have taken up space on the map where we haven't seen them do much before. But the question mark, the thing that has plagued them is, can they win these critical gunfights? Eternals opens up with one. That frees up Lighthouse now on the back lines. You have to make a play, but that's allowed Beasley to get behind things. Newberry here could play a massive spoiler role. They find a couple kills. Now the collapse on the site. Looking to come in as Marshall is caught around P3. Everyone else working off spawn.
You don't have to win the round. But to keep yourselves tied on ticks, you need 2 ticks here on the B zone. Paralysis up through middle. Trying to get behind a few. Action finds another. Slide out in from P3. 4 versus 11. No respawns remaining here for the Newberry boys. And unfortunately, they have fallen to the spawn trap that has caught so many players out here on Protocol throughout the year. Control can be so difficult. Diff will drop on down, gives themselves a fighting chance. They're trying to get back over to B. 10 seconds left here in the round. 2 versus 7, now a 1v7. You hop on the zone, you'll stall the clock out. What a miracle this would be.
Gonna try to play for some information, jump off, but that's giving players enough time to push forward. Damage into all 3, connects for 1, but feels similar to the position Marshall found themselves in. Just not quite enough numbers, and perhaps a small sigh of relief. Strong defensive showing. Tie things up 1-1. They have take advantage. They also have life advantage. We saw how well they played their initial offensive round. Can they piece it all together here? And for the first time, not only in this series it would be, but specifically in the map, taking advantage against Newberry.
5-3. 1-1. Still Newberry up 2-0 in the series. So you got to start somewhere if you are this Thundering Herd. Back to the offensive attack this time. Couple players going to drop down. No man's And it's going to be Diff who gets the best of them on the timing there. First blood goes the way of Newberry. Traded out immediately, though, in a technical trade across the map. Nobody on a zone just yet. This is interesting from Newberry. Instead of pushing up into the spawns, they're trying to win this first wave of kills throughout the middle of the map so then they can start to make their advance forward. And every time they find one, it's just another trade that comes through, and Marshall puts themselves back on top.
It's just those endgame adjustments, knowing how the first round went for them, knowing what they gave up so early as far as progress is concerned. Slow playing in and it's paying off for them. Eternals sending him to the Shadow Realm. Beasley now roaming around trying to find some of these kills. Sure, the trade's going down on the other side of the map, but no progress to show for it. The submachine gun starting to get loose, starting to get hot. In the middle portion of this round, you've stopped the clock for a few moments, but it hasn't amounted to much. Newberry Esports trying to put on their best defensive front.
A zone clear. Bottom right of the staircase, Paralysis wants to push his way forward, but he doesn't exactly know where Diff is on this heady. So he's going to wait for the rest of his teammates to try and make some noise around the map. P1 has been cleared out, but there are a few players still up by gun and surrounding inside of P3. So the defense starting to push their way forward. Stuski trying to get him out of the spawn trap. Beasley will wrap back over towards the right-hand side on the sidewalk. He will get cut down, so Marshall have the opportunity to get on A. They will. The slow clock at the 30.
Trying to collapse back through mid-map, and you find 3 kills. Simply put, you cannot let that happen. In that situation, they get picked apart still. With the player needing to win a big 1v1, that is going to be Alex Carr, and he loses it, so now the guns fly forward. Now the spawn trap in play in the moment where it couldn't happen. Newberry Esports find a way to get it done. We thought for a moment, Alex, that it was going to be a defensive round that might not be as dominant as what Marshall showed. Newberry strike back in, high-flying fashion there. Take another quick 2-1 advantage.
I was curious because, like, you know, I was like, okay, they're so far pushed up into the spawn trap in the back. There's no clear line of sight where somebody's going to be able to spawn. I mean, they're going to have to spawn in P3. 2 of them got in. Unfortunately, though, they just don't read that Eternals is over by the helipad. So could have changed trajectory there for just a moment. Maybe somebody could have slipped out over towards the B side, but it's all ifs, ands, and buts at this point. And now Newberry will take a 2-1 lead over the side of Marshall. Back to the defense we go here for the Thundering Herd. Eternals on 5 in a row. Potentially working towards a hellstorm of his own. We did see Paralysis get one in the early goings of our restart here on the protocol. Will it be called in this round? Will they need it? We'll have to find out.
Right, taken care of. First blood also goes the way of Marshall University. Mid-map underway, and I think Marshall need to pay respect to that. Make sure they're still continuing to win those battles, because right now it's being dominated by Newberry, and now they make the transition towards the B site, but everyone's spawning up close, so you're quickly going to get numbers back if you are Marshall. A teammate comes in, devastation, and that's going to be the wipe towards the B site. The transition underway, and you still have a player in Stuski looking over A, so you thwart that initial push. You can start to get to your setup, and now also getting aggressive. They know what this next wave of kills. They can start to push up spawn side. Alex Carr kicks it off.
Such a well-coordinated push over towards B, unraveled by that teammate. 2 kills the way of Marshall. Back up top trips. Eternals is forced to wrap away, but unfortunately, through the spawn side, Paralysis is there once again. Back up to 3 in a row. This is where he made his streak known the first time. On the defensive side, trying to spawn trap the Newberry Esports roster. Cells laying in wait over by No Man's. Paralysis and Lockers will back off into the spiral staircase. 3 players looking to make their way forward. And you have another one in Cells trying to make his way up through No Man's. No control on the map here right now. Still all red in the kill feed for the Marshall University roster. 8 lives of separation. Trying to force themselves to a round 5 here. And if they're not able to get anything, either A or B, a tick or 2 of progress, it is going to be a Marshall University round 5 defense. Still the last one alive. Traded out immediately. 6 seconds left. Yeah, good luck getting to the point.
Maybe has to fly, has to win a gunfight, and does. 0.8 seconds. Can't even think for a moment to step off the point. It's going to be a critical 1v1. His teammates are flying forward. What kind of timing can you find?
Diff will hop on him as well, though. Over towards the barrels inside. You're able to find one. Out of bottom, Grandma's action rips him. But you still have one down below. First tick of progress. They can absolutely not let the second tick of progress go their way. And oh no, coming off the respawn, 4 players for the side of Newberry are inside of middle map. Marshall are trying to wrap back on. Contention is there. They're trying to clear it out. They'll win the round, but that might not give them the defense.
And Paralysis with the play that saves the round. Ops, instead of flying out of front Grandma's side, takes the time, makes the wrap through P3, and is able to shoot a couple players in the back off that jump off. Was it enough out of Newberry to be able to get themselves round 5 defense? Did Marshall give them just enough leeway? Round 5 we go, so they've pushed the distance. Big plays finally starting to come together. But can they close this out?
Oh, Lord have mercy. You're going to see our faces for a second, just to kind of explain what's going on right now. We had to end the game there so that we could correct things tick-wise for the team that is going to have the defensive side, because we had to restart and teams had to flip for their correct side. So we'll be back in a minute, but I do believe that that means that this Marshall University roster will have defense for this final round 5. So going into a 2-2 series on the line, they're going to need to win one more defense to send us to a vault hardpoint in map 4 to keep fighting the number 24 team inside of the CCL this season up against the number 9 team. Newberry has been besting them in 2 maps thus far, but in this control, it's been relatively close. It's what we kind of predicted, Amber, going into this protocol for map 3. It's kind of played out in our favor, I think.
I do think it's been Marshall kind of arriving in the series. They've played as confident and as coordinated as we've seen up until this point. They secured the defense, and we saw it last night, Alex. It just makes me so nervous in the sense that even though you did the work, you got the defense for round 5, you have to play as smart as you have the entirety of this protocol control. You can't just even slightly let off the gas thinking that, okay, we have defense. They need to not overheat, not overextend. They've played the spawn side really smart, knowing when they want to push. Paralysis has been finding ways to get creative and work some of these kills. I think Action, the other submachine gun, doing the same thing. So looking to impose their will here in map 3. Again, it has to be high IQ Call of Duty out of them. The comms have to be clean and concise and accurate. To be able to close this one out is going to be a battle of attrition here in round number 5.
Paralysis has looked to get aggressive on the defense when pushing into the spawn side of this Newberry roster. Eternals looking to drop down low, will win the first gunfight, but Action is there for a trade. Is doubled out, though. So Newberry will go up 2-1 early on here in the life count with 15 seconds eclipse off the clock. Around the back end, though, Alex might have just got the god timing. Watches 2 drop. First one up the staircase. Dead. Eternals looks to challenge back. He's going to get shots peppered inside of him. Will stay alive for now, but the teammate should be there for help. He's the last one alive. And now Alex Carr can focus his attrition and his efforts back over towards the defensive spawn side. And as Alex Carr gets traded out from behind, the damage has been done. Nobody on the A zone just yet. Full map spread here for Marshall on the defense.
Action gets his moment to make things happen. At least slow down this push. Does get killed relatively quickly. You know you have to take another mid-map wave of gunfights in order to push towards one of these sites, and we're going to see Beasley fly over towards B. Try to find one of these kills, and it's going to at least soften things up. Connects for the second. Some more body shots being peppered in as Diff wins another one. That'll be 3 in the feed. It'll be the stack. He's got 2 players on this A site. First tick of progress through, and perhaps Marshall putting their eggs in one basket. Look like they're going to be giving it up for the moment towards this B side. We'll see if this ends up being a mistake.
Beasley almost finds his 9th kill in a single round here. Early on in the control, 5 lives of separation. Newberry on the offense. Up early. In the back end, Alex Carr. Oh no, you cannot lose that. And body shots are oh so deserved there. On the zone, though, they will hold them off for a moment. Marshall gets back on, but it was Cells who escaped the bottom. Grandmas, who should be able to make this stack work with the rest of the teammates. A is going to be gone. B zone now being collapsed upon by the defense. Paralysis is able to escape from his spawn side. What we had mentioned beforehand with him being able to get into the side of Newberry, this time it's turned around. 8 lives now split. Minute 30 to play.
They've worked their kills and they've played aggressive behind it. It's kind of been their bread and butter the entirety of this series, and they have caught Marshall flat-footed. Now as they look at it on B, a tick and a half of progress, and they have to collapse quickly. They have to find these kills, and it's not going their way.
They're long-range shots, too. It's only 2 players here. Alex will try to drop down, but there's too many players from Marshall still on the zone. He's going to find every single body and even shoot a teammate at the same time. Marshall University, unfortunately, will falter in the defense that they work so hard to get for themselves in map 3. It'll be a 3-0 from the 9th-ranked Newberry Esports. They will improve to 11-1 on the season, putting themselves in a very favorable spot going into the conference championships.
You said it, an Alex Carr gunfight. I'll say it. Just to kind of blanket statement the round 5, you can't let that happen. Everything that essentially I had warned going into that round 5 that Marshall couldn't do, they did. And Newberry also imposed their will, right? Whenever they found a good wave of kills, they didn't slow down. They didn't stop the push behind it. They got aggressive. They're like, okay, if anyone's going to overheat and have it work out for them, we trust our ability to push pace once again. Whenever we let Marshall dictate the tempo around the map, they found success. They sent it to a round 5. Newberry, they got back in the driver's seat and they said, all right, all gas, no brakes. We're not going to slow this one down for a moment. And they closed it out in swift fashion.
You know, Amber, as an analyst, I'm sure you felt this sentiment many times. It's a blessing and a curse when you lay out everything correctly and then it goes exactly to plan, but then you feel bad for Marshall when they falter in the exact way that you said they could not afford to happen. That's a tough one to swallow there for the Marshall side of things. But Paralysis and the boys, they fought hard throughout this best of 5. Unfortunately, though, this number 9 ranked Newberry team at the top of the Southeast Appalachian Conference was too much for them to handle. The Thundering Herd, unfortunately, will fall quiet tonight as the Wolves are going to continue the hunt to a conference championship. 3-0 in the series, 250-195 on the red card hardpoint, 6-2 in that Search and Destroy, and a 3-2 win in the Control. Before we go to a break and we get to our final match of the night, which is quite highly anticipated, Amber, final thoughts between Newberry and Marshall.
I think for Marshall, they found footing, and again, kind of just to piggyback off the point I made, when they could get control of kind of the pacing around the map, they found success. Against the Newberry team, it's hard to maintain that over the course of not only a map, but a series, and I think we kind of saw that. It was less a slow start, more Newberry, being the one getting aggressive and playing around the hot submachine guns. Paralysis action, they get hot a little too late, they run out of steam, and so for Marshall, it's definitely back to the drawing board for them. It's one where plenty of VOD review will go in, and they can kind of correct the mistakes that they had. But again, just to give props to Newberry, they played a very strong series. Even whenever they got tested at some turns, they found ways to bounce back stronger than ever, and again, a well-deserved 3-0 for them.
K. Beasley, Diff, Cells, and Eternal, a roster that is going to be making noise later on inside of this season. I have no doubt in my mind that we will be seeing Newberry fighting for a conference championship in the very near future. Coming up next, we have the 14th ranked OU Esports and the 16th ranked Texas A&M Maroon dueling off in what will be a fun West Sunbelt top cut matchup. This could very well be for positioning going into the conference championship. Stick around when we come back. We've got a banger best of 5.